everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my February and March wrap up. I did intend to do individual monthly wrap ups this year, but March ended up being a bit of a mess, so that's why I'm combining 2 months worth of wrap ups today. And this video won't be longer than usual either because I didn't read a lot in March, and we'll get on to that. This will be interesting because I'll need to try and remember what the books I read 2 months ago were all about. So let's start off with my monthly stats for February. I read 4 books in February. I read 899 pages, listened to 20 hours of audiobook. My average rating was 4 stars and I listened to 3 Own Voices books. And the first book I read in February was Black Girl Unlimited by Echo Brown. This is a semi-autobiographical coming-of-age magical realism story. Our main character Echo is a wizard, following her throughout most of her life, and the book explores a lot of different intersections of like race, class and gender. And I ended up giving this book 4.5 stars. Before I go on to like recommend it to you, I'd say to look up the trigger warnings first of all for this book, but I'd say like big trigger warnings for like sexual assault, abuse, racism and poverty and substance abuse. And generally as well is a book that's quite hard to explain due to the magical elements and how Echo uses her like powers to like help other people, and how other people in Echo's life use their magic to help her with her problems. I would definitely recommend it though if you're okay with the content in the book based on the trigger warnings. And prepare yourself for it to be a bit weird and for it to not make total sense. You just have to be ready to go along for the ride really. Very hard hitting, emotional and inspiring. This is one of the audiobooks I listened to and I would definitely recommend it. It was a great experience. It's narrated by the author as well. This was a debut novel as well, so I would be interested to see what Echo Brown publishes next, because with this debut novel she definitely has me intrigued, and I'd like to see what she does further down the line in her like writing and publishing career. The next book I read is definitely a booktube favourite from last year. It's The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. My kind of one sentence review for this book is Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children walked so this book could run. So I gave this book 4.5 stars. This is about Linus Baker, our main character, who works for the Department of Magical Youth and is sent on a new assignment to investigate the Marsyas Island Orphanage, which is the titled House in the Cerulean Sea. This orphanage is run by the enigmatic Arthur Parnassus and home to 6 magical children, including a gnome, a sprite and the Antichrist. I already want to reread it some point later in the year. I would like to buy a physical copy of the book so that I can like read it with my eyes, because I think if I reread it again I'd probably bump it up to 5 stars. And this is such a heartwarming and magical book. A lot of people cry over this book, which I personally didn't cry myself, but I can completely understand why. This isn't a very plot heavy book either, but the characters are so damn likeable. Was a particular favourite of mine. I loved him, and I think as well if you love the kind of found family trope, then this is definitely a book that you should be reading. And again, if you are a fan of Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children and that whole series, then I think you would like this book as well. Moving on to a physical book now. The next book I read was Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. This is the prequel to The Hate U Give. Follows 17-year-old Maverick Carter, who is the father of Star from The Hate U Give, as he suddenly finds out that he's a father at a very young age, whilst simultaneously being a king lord and trying to go straight from a life of drugs. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. It wasn't my favourite Angie Thomas book, unfortunately. It might just be a case of wrong book, wrong time, but I felt very neutral throughout most of this book. And this is one of those situations where I feel really bad for giving it a very average, middling rating, because everybody I follow has given it 4 or 5 stars. And when you see like all of these positive reviews and you only gave it 3 stars, you just think to yourself, am I broken? There were enough exciting and suspenseful moments in the plot to keep me engaged. I liked the characters, but I didn't feel fully invested or engaged in this book. But I say don't take my word for it, because it's gotten very positive reviews. It may just be a me thing, but yeah, I think I'm still going to continue to read Angie Thomas. I would actually quite like to reread The Hate U Give at some point. I will still be reading whatever she comes out with next, because I think she's a really great writer and she has interesting characters and stories. I'm sure whatever she comes out with next will be fantastic. Then the last book I finished in February was It's Not Okay to Feel Blue by Scarlett Curtis, or should I rather say curated by Scarlett Curtis, because this is a collection of essays all about the topic of mental health. I read this throughout the course of the month before bed. I read about 2 to 3 essays every night, which is a good strategy because this is a Thick with 2 C's collection of essays. I think it was a good option to read the book like that as well, because some of the essays were pretty heavy. So if you are to read this book, take it easy, remember to practice self-care. In terms of like trigger warnings, it's kind of what you would expect out of a book about mental health, you know, depression, anxiety, PTSD, trauma. There are 3 essays in particular towards the end that really made me cry. I don't know whether it just hit me at the wrong time, but yeah. In a section, it's okay to ask for help. And these essays were pretty much straight after the other as well, which maybe didn't help me emotionally, but here we are. The essays in question were His Best Man by Jack Rook, Beatrice by Kate Weinberg, and Hello My Loves by Miranda Hart. Those were the ones that were my favourites and made me cry. The one critique I have of this book, and the reason that I'm giving it 4 stars, is that it mainly focuses on depression and anxiety and not any other mental illnesses really. There's one chapter about schizophrenia and one about OCD, but I would have liked a bit more, and especially some stuff about underrepresented and misunderstood mental illnesses like bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder as well. But I think if you can handle it, if you're in the right place to be reading this book, then I would definitely recommend it. It is a long one, as I already mentioned, so take your time. Perhaps don't binge read this book. Take it easy, read a couple of essays at a time alongside with something else. So those are the books I read in February. Moving on to the books I read in March, or should I say book, singular, because I only read 1 book in March.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because
I don't know what happened. The book I was reading was not bad. The book wasn't the problem. I went for a bit of a lifestyle change, and then I went for another change in my work shifts, and now I've got a new job, so I've got new shifts there. I've just been in a bit of disarray, if you will. So I was really struggling to prioritise reading, and I was never really in the mood to read either. So I was technically in a bit of a reading slump for March, but the book I was reading was not bad at all. In fact, the book I read was Girl, Woman, Other by Bernadine Evarista, which I gave 4 stars. I should add as well, on top of the whole my life being in like disarray, if you will, that's a bit over dramatic, but I was just a bit all over the place. I did intend to take part in a readathon in March, Tis the Damn Readathon, which was a Taylor Swift themed readathon, and it was the type of readathon where it's like a bingo board with like prompts and everything, but I failed that readathon, even though there were like several different prompts, and even some of them were like activity based ones. You didn't even have to read a book. This book did cross off a few of those prompts, but I didn't get like a line or anything on the bingo board they had, because the bingo board was, if you are familiar with the Lover music video by Taylor Swift, there's a house in the music video, and like each room represents like a different one of their albums, so that was kind of the format of the bingo board, and you could either complete the whole thing if you wanted to, complete just like a line, so do like several stories, do straight across, do straight down the middle, however you wanted to, as long as you got like a line. I didn't get a line at all. The only prompts I completed was the Taylor Swift album prompt, Fearless, Lover, and the Red prompt, which unfortunately didn't equal to a line. But anyway, moving on from me failing a readathon, let's talk about Girl, Woman, Other. This follows the lives of 12 characters, mostly women and mostly black, talking about like the stories of their lives, and for some characters going way back in the past to trace their family history, and all the characters are connected to each other, and it was really interesting to see certain scenes that happen to these characters from another perspective. It covers so many topics, and it does come with some trigger warnings which I'd recommend you looking up. The writing style is quite unique, as it has virtually no punctuation, like no full stops at all, and it meant that the writing style was almost lyrical, like poetry. It does take a little while to get into, but it's one of the aspects of the book that I enjoyed the most. I didn't do the audiobook, but I suggest maybe trying the audiobook if you are struggling with the writing style, and overall I'd say it was worthy of winning the Booker Prize. In March I also started the audiobook of Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson, which I hope to finish in the month of April. I also started reading Exciting Times by Nisha Dolan, which I'm about halfway through now, and I hope to finish off this month. So these are the 3 physical books I read in February and March, minus the 2 audiobooks. Hopefully in April we'll have a better reading month. If you've read any of the books that I've read in the past 2 months, leave a comment down below, let me know what you thought of them. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my videos. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!